A part of me felt that it wasn't really necessary to make any statements on the Nintendo Directs because it feels like every time this happens, like more and more people start to become red pilled on the subject. They start to realize that you can't really take any statement made by a reliable leaker all that seriously. And this is something I've been talking about for a long time. It predates even like my regularly updating videos on this channel, right? Like I was talking about like Emily Rogers and Liam Robinson and like the whole like conspiracy and how they completely made things up in order to push a narrative. It's it was a weird like culture of just making things up about Nintendo for attention, right? So YouTubers can grift and make money. And nothing has changed on that front. Absolutely nothing. If anything, it feels like it's getting worse because we're at this weird point where people are constantly pretending as if the new Nintendo console is like imminent, like going to come out in like the next year or so. We're seeing people make things up about upcoming games, upcoming direct times, and in general, we just see this like pattern repeat itself over and over and over again. And I suppose at the very least, every time this happens, I do need to really try to remember to make a statement that we absolutely cannot take these people seriously, right? We have seen this happen too many times to really even consider that these leaks could be correct or that there could be a direct at this time. Typically, what happens, it's just guesswork. Because I myself have been making pretty accurate direct periods. At the very least, like I knew, I suspected that there would be a direct in September because I knew there were a lot of upcoming games to come out, and I knew that like I speculated there might be a game in director in September for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that like we didn't know a whole lot about Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And what happens? We get a Super Mario Bros. Wonder direct, right? Like I didn't have any insider information. I didn't have any idea. I was just making some speculation. I was just addressing what I thought would happen. And because I'm actually like well researched on the topic, because I actually know how Nintendo behaves, how I like understand how this stuff works, like I generally have a pretty good idea of like when directs are going to launch, right? You don't need insider information to tell you that maybe September has been a generally well accepted time to get new Nintendo Directs, right? Like this, ever since like the death of E3, it feels like Nintendo has shifted more to like September and February as their like critical months to talk about stuff at the beginning and end of the year, right? It doesn't take a genius to figure that out, right? Like we've had like September directs like pretty consistently over the past couple of years, right? There is no spec like there is no reason at all to think that there is no reason at all to think that like people saying that there could be a direct at this time of year covering these games, like there's no reason to think that those people have insider information at Nintendo, right? And usually when it comes to releasing specific releases, like when it comes to situations about naming certain games that'll get like name dropped or whatever. Typically, there's like reasons for that. Like for example, like I have known that I have like been saying that like it's time for a new Donkey Kong game for a long time, right? The Mario movie came out. Donkey Kong Country hasn't gotten a new entry in a while. Like, I feel like it's time for a new Donkey Kong game, right? Like, I've been pushing for that for a long time. The leakers seem to feel the same way because that's what they've been talking about a lot lately. Is like new Donkey Kong games. They've thrown out like new DKC games. They've thrown out like new 3D games. They threw out like a Donkey Kong versus Mario game. Like they threw all this out, like trying to like convince you that like this stuff could be real. And because like these things are based on like pre-established series and ideas, like people are more willing to accept that like this stuff might be real, right? That this might be like a thing that actually exists, right? Like when people said that, like Donkey Kong versus Mario is coming out, people were just like, "Oh, that's disappointing. So that must be realistic. So that means it's true." Right? We're going through this process now where like people threw out this idea that like Mario versus Donkey Kong was a thing, and so that like people legit are getting like upset about it, like over a rumor, right? Something that really doesn't matter. Like again, why exactly do bad games getting made like ruin your experience with the Switch? Like if a game comes out that you're not interested in, like one two Switch or whatever, like just don't buy it. Like why exactly do you get upset over like a game like like Mario versus Donkey Kong, right? Like why get so upset about that? Especially when we're getting a new 2D Mario game this October. Like what's the mindset behind it? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like in any way, shape, or form. Like the complaints about games like this, about like One Two Switch, about this, like who cares, really? Who cares that these games that appeal to like certain demographics, like don't appeal to you personally? Like who cares? Like it's so frustrating seeing so many people like get riled up over these kind of things, right? Over rumors, games that we don't even know exist yet, right? If anything, I feel like the peak of the controversy that like One Two Switch, everybody One Two Switch got was like the uh the pre-release stuff before it like was revealed to be real. That's another point though. That's another point. Like a lot of this stuff, a lot of these leaks are just people noticing things that were like published early or like posted on like or talked about in interviews like before an official release or something like that. Like I remember like years and years ago, like Emily Rogers confirmed that like Paper Mario would be getting a game on Wii U. But like the reason she knew that was because they talked about it in like a Japanese press conference. And like it was just one of those things that like never made its way over here through traditional gaming journalist outlets, right? Like everybody want to Switch was posted to the website, right? Like there are situations like this where information regarding these titles are posted online in some format, and like these people get a hold of it and then release it on Twitter as if like they have insider information, when in reality they're just paying attention and they know when something is going to get announced or when we're going to get a director or what have you. There are signs when it's going to happen, right? And that's kind of what I want to emphasize going into this. Like, do I think there might be a Nintendo Direct this month? Yes. Like, I think it's possible we might get something in the next like month or so. Like, maybe not even in September. Maybe in like early October or something. Like, well, not in October because like there's so many games coming out. But like, I think like we don't have a lot of knowledge of like what's coming out after this holiday season. Early next year. So I do think we're gonna have to get one soon. We're gonna have to like talk about this the Splatoon 3 DLC soon. So like I think we can expect one very soon, perhaps as soon as like the leakers say. But they're just because they say it doesn't mean they're right, right? They are simply just making an educated guess that might be accurate, right? Just because they talk about certain games and they get some entries right doesn't mean they have insider information. Like you need to stop with this mindset that these people's that the that these people are worth listening to essentially. Like they're worthless. Like just there have been too many times where these kind of accurate predictions are used to like ju- um, to justify like more and more like ludicrous claims, right? Pokemon Stars being the most notorious, but you also have like the Switch Pro. You have like Endless Ocean 3. Like you have like this endless examples of like things these kind of people have. Star Fox Grand Prix. Like you have endless examples of things that these people tried pushing onto the gaming public with like no basis in reality whatsoever. And like that led to this entire like an entire year's worth usually of people like believing this stuff was happening, believing it was real, only to like realize that like it just wasn't real. It was fake. And we are seeing that more and more with with these Nintendo leakers. And I hope that people like wake up and realize that these Nintendo leakers, including PRO, cannot be trusted.